So welcome to the Custom Report webinar. My name's Alex, and if you've ever had any questions about reports, you've most likely been dealt by myself or by Max. I primarily focus on the reporting section here at Arthur, so if you do have any questions, then here's my email on the slide. So then, so shoot me an email and I will take a look at your query. So this webinar will take around say to 30 or 40 minutes, followed by like a 10-minute Q&A. So you're more than welcome to stay after the webinar if you do have any questions. So if you do have questions, then pop them in the chat box and I will respond to you at the end of the webinar. Just a little note, so questions answered would be based on like the order the questions coming in. So other than that, let's begin. So please note all the information within this webinar is copyright of Arthur Online, and the information in this document is strictly private and confidential. So this is the structure of the webinar. We'll kick things off with an overview of how to basically navigate the reporting section on Arthur. Then I will explain our current live reports that we have on the system, and then how to basically create a report as well. And this will be done through like a demonstration, going through the different steps on how to do this. And then we will finish off with like a different types of output destinations that we offer. And then as mentioned before, this will then be followed by a 10 to 15-minute Q&A. So you're more than welcome to stay for that if you like. And just to note, the webinar recording will be posted on our YouTube channel later today as well. Okay, so let's begin. So to access reports, you simply just click reports in the left-hand side menu. And then this will then open up this page here. So I will go through like each section on this page and let you know what they mean. So this favorite reporting section here, these are the ones with the gold star next to the name, as you can see here. This will then open up this page here, and then this will also then appear on your home page. So that would be quite handy for like quick access for your favorite reports. And then you can favorite as many reports as you would like on this little section here. So this is completely limitless. And then recently viewed, this section is basically, as what the title really says, it keeps like a log of recently viewed reports that you've viewed, up to 6 reports we currently offer in this little section here. And the same for recently created, records recent reports that have been added to your account. And then the create custom report button here, you'll be able to choose your own report if you find none of our like system reports that we currently offer match your query. And then this little group section here, these are our report groups that we currently offer like a report on. So I like to think of them as like a folder as well. So, and then in each folder, you will find like a set of reports that you can run, or you can also find your own custom reports within these little groups here. So do next slide if it lets me. We currently have around 25 report groups that you can use to create your report in. And like I said, our new advanced reporting system will have a lot more tables that you can report in. Each group has 2 different sections to that page. So there's a system report section. And this basically contains our live reports. This will be at the top of each group that you've opened. And then a custom report section. This basically contains your own custom reports that you've created, and these are only for your Arthur account, for your like entity, your Switch account. And each group that you run a report in, there will be like relevant fields for that group for when you like create your own reports. So for example, if you run like an applicant group report, you will only find like fields relating to like a applicant. And then the same goes to like financials, notes, properties as well. So system reports are essentially our global reports that are basically available straight away for you to run straight off the bat. Each group will have at least one global report as shown as like a little purple circle, as shown here. And then we do also offer like a consolidated reporting as well, which will be available through our advanced reporting system, which is yet to be released. However, we have released reports to do with this system. So these are ones that have like Apollo in the description field of the report. And just to know, whenever you run like a system report from Arthur, the best format to run these reports would be in like an enhanced report layout. Okay, so I'll now briefly go over the current reports that we have on the system. So the first one being is the applicant report, which is found in the applicant group or a folder as well. This will basically include any relevant information to do with the applicant, as shown in this little picture here. So this will basically show you the applicant name, email, mobile, last viewing details, if they've been invited, etc. Every enhanced report has a few filters at the top of the page that you can use to condition the report by, as shown here. So you can filter by date range, an applicant name, status, tags, source, and then the different requirements as well. Certificate reports. This basically shows you details about the certificates that you've added either at unit level, property level, tenancy level. And this report basically gives you a rundown of all those certificates, when they expire, if they have expired, if a work order has been created for that certificate, etc. As you can see in this page as well. And like I said, there's filters at the top of the page where you can filter to only show like a certain property, maybe like a certificate type, a certificate status. If maybe the document has been attached to a certificate, you can do that here through these little conditions here. And now the financial group, this is probably the most popular group report that clients create. So this basically includes all your transactional data on Arthur. So we do have a few reports in this group. So I'll kind of explain each one and what each one does. So the first one being the age 10 balance. So this one basically shows you tenants that are in arrears or basically any outstanding transactions on Arthur to do with a tenant. And then when you run this report as like an enhanced report, in there, you'll be able to basically see who's kind of still outstanding, who still has like invoices to pay off. And then inside that enhanced report, you do also have filters such as to only show overdue transactions, date range as well, or if you want to only show for a specific unit owner, etc. You can do that through here. And this was quite a new one. This will also use our new advanced reporting system. So these will have Apollo written in the description. And this one basically shows your management income as well. So basically any like management fee charges, disbursement charges, etc. Contractor invoice, kind of straightforward. This will kind of list all your transactions generated by the contractor. So any disbursement charges as well, maybe charges from the contractor, and if they've also been charged to the tenant or the owner as well. The markup fee report, this basically shows you a total of transactions that have been marked up, and basically like a total at the top of the page as well. The property income and expenditure report, this basically shows you the receipts and charges for each property as well. And then, of course, within each report that are listed here, there are also filters for each report that you can condition by. And then the property owner remittance report, this will basically show you current owner balances as well, so yet to be remitted transactions, any float balances against owners, and remittances as well, so that have been created in the past. And then the tenant deposits reports, this basically shows you a record of all your deposit transactions, your deposit charges, your receipts for each tenant as well. And then the transaction list report, this is basically an exporting scenario where you would like to, if, for example, you would like to keep a log of all your transactions locally, I would advise basically running this report, and it will basically list all your transactions relating to like a tenant or the owner or the contractor. And then you basically be able to just download it as like a CSV. So if you would like to basically export your data locally, I would advise using this little transaction list report. And again, all these reports can be accessed through the financial group report. And then unallocated credits. So this is basically any credits that are basically yet to be allocated as well. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so now in the recurring group, we currently have 2 reports based on your recurrings. One of them is the predicted future rental income report. So this is based on your recurring frequencies, and it basically predicts your income for the next 10 months. Again, this is based on like your recurrings, your frequencies, your start and end dates as well. And then also the recurring report. So this basically gives you a list of all your active and inactive recurrings, which is great to see if recurrings have been accidentally switched off as well, or if there's maybe a missing recurring from a tenancy, you can access it from this report. And then this is basically an example of our predicted future rental income report. So as you can see here, there's 2 different templates that you can run. One is per unit. So as you can see here, per unit for per property, or you can also then do it for the whole property as well. So this will basically sum up all the units within the property, and it will kind of project like the income for that for the month, for the future months. And then of course you also have filters at the top of the report that you can condition the report by if you only want to show certain frequencies or maybe like an area as well. You can do that from here. And in a task group report, we have a system report called a task report. And this basically shows you your tasks on the system, type of task as shown in this little picture here. If there's like a checklist against this task, how many subtasks within your task have been completed or are yet to be completed, if it's overdue, when it was created as well, the description. And then this is collapsible as well. So inside you can basically see the description as well, and then see which subtasks, if there are any, have been completed and by who and by when as well. And then in a tenancy group report, we currently have 2 reports. One is called the Occupancy Report. And this is based basically on your tenancy move-in and move-out dates, as shown in this picture with a basically line graph as well. And then underneath this line graph, if you scroll down in this report, you basically see an overview of each property, how many days in each month within like the date range have been occupied. So in this example, I ran it for between January to December, and you can basically see how many days were occupied, the percentages as well for each month and for the whole portfolio as well, and for each property. In this report, you can also filter by unit owner, by property address as well, and of course by like a date range. And our second report within a tenancy group is a tenancy report. This basically shows information regarding each tenancy and the renter. So there's maybe like an outstanding amount, basically anything to do with the tenancy will be here as well. And within a tenant group report, we have 3 different reports, one of them being the COVID-19 report and a tenant vulnerability report. So if you basically invite tenants to use the app, they have the option to answer a few questions regarding these topics. And so these reports will help you grab that information and basically show you when they submitted like the answers to these questions. And run these as like an enhanced report. So as I said, any like system reports that we have on Arthur, it's best to run them as like an enhanced report. This basically means we've kind of converted the format of the report to make it more user friendly as well. And we've kind of put it on a page for you guys to look at. And then our further report within this group is the tenant report. And this will basically show you information to do with the tenant, such as like the age, the email, mobile number, etc. And then the next slide, we have basically our work orders group. And this basically we currently have a work orders report in there. And this will, if you run this also as like an enhanced report, this will basically show you a list of all your work orders as shown in this little picture here. So within the work order, like the description of the work order, how many contractors were invited, who accepted the job, who basically did the job, the dates surrounding the work order, such as like the completed date, the due date, and then soon this report will also be updated to see the list of who was invited, like the basically a list of all the contractors that were invited. And here you can also then have filters as well. So if you only want to share emergency work orders, you can do that from here. The work order statuses as well. And then if you only want to share for like a certain service type as well, you can do that here. So the groups I just showcased are probably the most used report groups at the moment. I would say that there are other report groups that can also be run, but for this webinar, I just showed you that the most important ones that people might use. So you're more than welcome to go through each report group and run one of our system reports and kind of get the gist of what kind of information we can pull out of like a certain group report. Okay, so I've now gave you like an overview of how to basically navigate reports and what kind of system reports we currently have that can be run straight away. So now I'll basically demo how to actually create a report as well from scratch. So if I kind of exit this PowerPoint, give me 2 seconds and then access Arthur. So, so this is kind of like the main index page of our reports. So if I kind of zoom in as well. So to access this, you basically, as mentioned in the PowerPoint, you just click reports here. And then this will basically load this little page here. To create a custom report, so if you've maybe found that none of the system reports that we currently have kind of match your kind of criteria of the report that you're looking for, then you're more than welcome to create your own custom report as well. There's a few ways that you can create a custom report. And to do that, you can just simply click, as you can maybe see here, you can click create a custom report here. Or you can also go in properties and then click create like that report as well. To create like this little group report for a property. But for the sake of this webinar, I'll just click create custom report here. And this is the page that basically lists all your report groups. So I'm not sure if you can see this on the call, but this is basically like a drop down of all the report groups that you can run a report on. So depending on what kind of report you're looking for, you would probably click one of these report groups. So for example, if it's to do with like maybe to do with transactions like invoices, charges, anything to do with maybe like payments as well, anything like transactional data, that will all basically come down financials. And then if it's maybe to do with like your to-do list, your tasks, that will go under our tasks group report. Anything to do with like tenants, then that'll go down as tenants. So you kind of have to just maybe think of what the main point of your report is. If it's like more like a transaction data, etc. If it's more like tenants, work orders, tasks, etc. like that. So for this example, I will create like a financial report. So I will select financials in this drop down, and then that will populate this drop down here. And then once you're happy with the report group you've clicked on, you just click continue. And then this will basically load the back end of creating a report. So in this example, as I chose a financial / like a transaction report, in this available field section, I can see all the fields that are related to a transaction table. Depending on what report group you run, this will depend on this kind of section depends on what kind of report group you've run. So if I maybe chose tasks in the drop-down menu, this little section here will populate with fields related to, so for as well. Since the financial one, I can see to do with. So these are all in like alphabetical order as well. So this is basically a list of all our fields, and then depending on what kind of report you're looking for and what information you're kind of wanting to get out of like an alpha report, you basically, you can either do control and then highlight all the different fields that you would like to see in the report. Yep, and then from here you can click add selected, and that will then move these fields to the selected field area. Oops, sorry, and then from there, you can also, for each selected field within your report, we have different options that you can use within this column. So for example, if you don't want to have this field as created and you want to call this as date, you can do that here. And this, in this little heading box, and this basically changes the name of that column header to basically say date instead of created. And so yeah, kind of depending on what information you're looking for from the report, you kind of have to find the fields in here. So the main ones are usually for like a financial table is usually transaction type. You can also do Control F if you know like maybe like the name of the field. You can just Control F and find that field name. So like unit address as well, that's from here. And unit address name, you just kind of have to go through this list and then just try and find the right field that you would like on the report. And there's a few ways of selecting fields. You can either do add all, and this will basically add all the fields to this little selected field section, or you can also double click and this basically adds those fields to the selected field section. And then for report name as well. So this is basically the name of the report that you would like to give that report. So here you can basically change this and then that will showcase on the report page. Description as well, this isn't a compulsory field, so you can leave this blank, but if you want to just add extra information, basically just explaining what the report is about to your colleagues, then you can put that in here in this little description format page box. So we've gone through the name, description, the fields, and then in the conditions area. So this kind of also depends on what report group you've selected at the point of in that drop down when you've like starting to create a report. So in a financial report, you can see these little conditions here. So this is basically to do with a financial table. So you can see here you can filter by like a date range, which will come under like transaction date. So if you only want to maybe show records that are to do with a certain date period, you simply just click transaction date and then click in here. And then you can from here you can basically select for like last month, this month. There's a few templates that we can do, or use like a custom range as well. You can do that completely here. And then I'll just close that one. And then from here, you can also, depend on what report or what kind of information you want from the report, you can also then condition the report by a certain statement. So if you only want to show tenant rent statements, anything to do that, any records that are on the property owner statement, you can do that here as well. It's just kind of going through these little conditions one at a time and just seeing what the condition kind of does. Paid as well. So if you only want to show unpaid transactions or maybe like overdue transactions, you can do that from here. As I said, this is basically dependent on what kind of report group you've run. So for maybe like a task report, your conditions won't be the same here. It'll be more related to do with a task as well. So if I kind of just close these down, the next section is group by. So this one is only available for certain groups, such as a financial report, this one. So here you can kind of group by, say, if you want to only show a summary for like a tenancy, per tenancy, or by maybe, depending on what kind of report you're running and what kind of information you would like to get out of a report. So this basically groups all the records relating to, for example, if I select tenancy, that basically groups all the records to do with each tenancy and basically squashes it into one line. And then from there, you can basically, that basically summarizes any like numerical fields. So for example, if you had more than one record, it basically sums up those into one line. display records and group by, so that basically uncollapses the group as well. So then if you want to, instead of only showing one line for per tenancy, you want to also have that ability, but also show the records to do with each tenancy. You just click this little display records and group by, and that basically uncollapses the group, and then you can kind of see what the transactions are within each tenancy. And then sort by, at the moment, we only support 2 sort bys. So for example, if you want to sort by, it's kind of dependent on what kind of fields you've added here as well. So if I add in property address, so if you want to sort by property address and then by unit address, you can do that here. And then you can also then change how you like that to show on the report. If you want to show it as like descendant order or ascendant order. In our new advanced reporting system, the number of how many times you can sort by is limitless. So you can sort by as many times as you want. But just with our custom reporting at the moment, this one, you can only sort by 2 fields. And then here, the additional options, this is also dependent on what report you've also ran. So this might change depending on the report group you've entered. So here it's kind of self-explanatory, like date formats. If you want any of the dates to maybe change like the date format of those dates. So if you want to show it as that, you can click that. If you want to maybe hide 0 currencies, or if you want to maybe hide the currency symbol. So that's how you would basically do that as well. So this is basically the back end of creating like a report. So if I go back to custom reports, and then maybe if I create another report, like a task report, you can kind of see the different fields that are related to like a task report. As you can see, the fields kind of change depending on what report group you run. And then also the conditions as well. This changes dependent on the group report. So as it's a task report, here you'll have the option to basically filter by task status, by task type as well. If you want to show furniture task types, you can do that here as well. And then these are kind of the same features here as well. So you can sort by 2 fields and then additional options as well. So that's kind of how you can create like a custom report on Arthur. So if I just kind of go back to my PowerPoint and then go back to from current slide. Bam. Oops, so if I do that, bear with me. Show and then screen. Okay, so we've done this bit here. And basically, finally, once you've kind of created a report, you have the option to output that report into a specific format as well. So we currently support a few destinations that you can run a report in. So the following formats would be screen. So whenever you run a report, I'd advise running it as like a screen just to kind of see the gist of how the report kind of looks like. It's almost like a preview, like a table format layout. And then from here, you can also have a CSV export. So that will be if you're happy with the report and you want to export it locally to your machine, you can do that here and then just export by a CSV. And that would save it as like an Excel spreadsheet. Just a note, so when you export this, it's not actually going to update that file anymore. So you would have to constantly run, if it's like a monthly report, as you would just have to keep running the same report every month from Arthur and then saving it locally to your machine. And then as you can see in this drop down, you can also then run the report by a PDF and then enhanced report. Regarding enhanced report, this kind of depends on if it's like a system report. So if it's a system report on Arthur, you're probably best to run it as like an enhanced report. Or if it's like a bespoke report that you've paid for, then that will also be like an enhanced report as well. And that basically kind of concludes our like custom reporting webinar. I hope you had a blast listening to my webinar. So the next webinar will be on portals by Max, and there will be like an invite coming out shortly. So that webinar will be like on the 18th of November, same time as this webinar at 11. So if you do have like any questions, then you're more than welcome to stay and drop your query in the chat for me. And then I'll just try my best to answer them for you. Again, I'll be around for about like 10 minutes or so. So if you do have any questions, then just pop them in the chat, or if maybe like a question pops up later today, then you can just email me your query as well. So you can see my email here. So if you just like email me as well, and I'll try and get back to you. So yeah, if you do have any questions, then just pop them in the Q&A chat, and then I'll just try my best to answer them for you. If it's a bit more too technical, or if it requires me to look at your auth account, then it might be just best to message me in the live chat about it. And then I'll kind of look at your scenario, your query. So if I just quickly open up my Q&A, bear with me. Give me 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds and load in on my end. Okay, so when I try to run a report such a transaction report as enhanced report, it says template for this report or data set not available. So we do have a transaction list report, and then there's one called a transaction list export, transaction export list. So if you go into financials, if you basically run the transaction export list as like an enhanced report, the one that will have Apollo in the description of the report. In there, you will have basically you will have like a few different reports in there, like different conditions. As there is a COVID report, I assume that there is somewhere we can ask tenants to enter data related to COVID. So yeah, basically it's kind of dependent on if you invite your tenants to use the tenant application. So we kind of offer tenants a way of basically accessing their tenancy information. So it kind of depends on if you invite your tenants or not. If you do, then whenever your tenant kind of logs in using maybe the web application or the app application, there's like this little icon that they will be able to see in the bottom right hand corner, where they'll be able to basically answer like the list of the questions that are to do with like the COVID questionnaire survey thing. And then from there, that kind of goes, then you'll be able to get a notification whenever they answer that survey. And then from there, you can then also run a report on that as well. Is it possible to create an automated process whereby Arthur sends an email with a specific report once a week? I would say, unfortunately, not at the moment. So you have to actually like manually run the report once every week and then send it by email yourself. It's not something that automated events kind of currently does. If it's more of like a statement, or like if it's like a tenant invoice, or maybe like a remittance statement that you would like to send to maybe your tenants or your owners, we do have the ability for you to batch print, and then from there you basically be able to batch send those printed statements. But in regards to like actual reports from the custom reporting section, it's not something at the moment that will be automatic. So you just have to go in and then just run that report once a week, unfortunately. what's the difference between a normal and enhanced report? So there's a few different formats that we currently offer. So within a report, there's a screen, and then which is like the normal kind of reporting destination that people run in, and then enhanced report. So in enhanced report is basically we have a third party software called Stimusoft, and that kind of basically puts a report into a page format, and then a screen report, which is our normal destination, kind of just puts it like column by column in like a table format. So it is completely up to you how you like to run the report. So some clients prefer to just have the data maybe not have the data look like a table layout, but instead have it more on like a page format. Can you do the transaction report you mentioned in the webinar for specific tenancies? Oh, good question. I believe not at the moment, but it's something that we can add. It's kind of just like a filter that we have to add in. So I will save your question, and then I will just after this webinar, I will just quickly update that report, and then from there you'll be able to then run the transaction report based on a tenancy as well. If I press one report, then choose enhanced report as a template. Oh, sure, no worries. I can show you how to basically run that transaction report. So if I quickly go back to my Arthur, so if I go back to custom reports, go into financials. I believe there should be two different reports here that you can run. So at the moment, there's two different reports called transaction export list report. So I advise the one that has Apollo in the description. I'd run this as like an enhanced report as well. If it loads. Bam. So in there should be an enhanced report layout folder in there. It does not. That's interesting. So with that, I'll double check with the team to see why there's not an enhanced report section. But yeah, so I'll look into that and then see why this doesn't appear to be in the list. But hopefully then I'll add that in for you. Thanks for raising that with me, and yeah, leave that with me, and I'll look into it. But yeah, as you can see, you'll have like the different conditions that you can run the report in, and then from there you can either run as like a screen or like a CSV export. Can you show us the normal and an enhanced report? Oh yeah, definitely. I can show you like the different example of how it all looks. So if I do, so if I just quickly do, let's do the H-tenant balance report. So as this one's more converted into like a system report, like an enhanced report, if you run this as a screen, this might take a few seconds to load depending on your data. So as you can see here, this is basically like the layout that I'm talking about, like the screen, like the table layout that a screen format provides. And then the difference between this and then if I run this as like an enhanced report, let's do by tenancy. And then here, as you can see, here's like the difference between like an enhanced report and like a screen table layout. So as you can see, the enhanced report is a bit more user-friendly in terms of like the different filters that you can use. And then from there, you can also then use like the drop downs as well from here. Do I have to complete the conditions section? If I leave blank, will it have a preset option? Of course, yep, you don't have to use the conditions section. If you leave those blank, then it will just run the report without any conditions, so you'll get the whole report. So dependent on how many records there are in the report, if you're running it without any conditions, that might take just a few seconds to load. But most of the case, it will still be quite fast in loading speed. The conditions are there if you just want to basically filter to only show certain information. But yeah, you're more than welcome to not use those conditions, and then it will just run it will just output the whole report without basically like an unfiltered report. When running the tenant H-turn balance report and then clicking on that plus sign, the report is shown on an empty page. Should that page show the details of outstanding amount? Let's quickly run this report. And let's check. There is, so our third-party software we use is Stimulsoft. So Stimulsoft is basically just like a reporting tool that helps us convert our screen reports into more like a page interactive report. So there is currently like a little bug that they're currently looking into. So it's to do with like this little date range here at the top of the page. There's a quick temporary workaround for now. So it's just temporary, so it shouldn't be there soon. But for now, there's the little date icon that you can click here. So if I kind of zoom in, there should be a date icon here. And then just to fix this, just simply click one of these little date templates here for now. So if I just click today, and that then resets this date range here, and then from there you'll be able to use the date range as you would expect, as you expect to use, and then that kind of resets it, and then from there you'll be able to submit, and then in there you will then be able to have like a little, then in there you'll have a list of all your outstanding transactions to do with this tenancy. So yeah, it's just a little hiccup with our reporting tool. It's just you just have to click this little button here, this little date icon, and then use this template to fix that issue there. And then from there, you should then be able to run the report as you would expect to. Tomorrow, look to email you. Oh, no worries. Yeah, if you do have any questions later today or tomorrow, if you look through the reporting system, then yeah, just email me and then I'll look into your query. Okay, so that was about 15 minutes of Q&A. So I'll stop the webinar here. But again, if you maybe have any questions like later today or even in the future, then just drop me an email and then I will look into your query. Or there is also the live chat option. You can also drop your message in there, and then one of our teams will look into your question. No worries. I hope you enjoyed the webinar. So take care and have a nice day.